Hello, everyone. It is that time of year. We are going to be discussing the 2025 Eurovision Song Contest. I am going to be talking about the first semifinal. It's coming up. It's not that far away, next month. I already put out a video where I ranked initially all 37 entries that we have competing this year. And that will be linked in the description. But I put that out almost a month ago, and my thoughts have slightly changed and evolved since then. So if you've seen the video, be aware that I may have changed a little bit of my thoughts on some of the placements of these songs, particularly because obviously a lot of them we have not seen performed live on stage. If they were not, if they were internally selected instead of through a national final. So semifinal one. I think the consensus, we've got 15 songs here. I believe that the consensus from the fandom is that this is the less competitive semi, which often seems to be somewhat the case. I feel like semifinal two is the one where I feel like it's a little bit of a tighter race. And semifinal one is a little more up for grabs for a lot of different acts. And so how I'm going to do this is I am going to first go through my personal qualifying 10 entries, and of course, admittedly, my 5 non-qualifiers. And so I'll take you through those and I'll talk about all of the songs. And then I'll, of course, end by talking about what I predict will happen on the Tuesday before the grand final in May. So that is obviously going to be a very different result than I think what I would like to happen. But keep in mind, a lot obviously changes based on the actual performances of these songs. Going into it, we might really like a studio cut, or we might have really liked how something was staged in the national final, but then how it's done on stage, or vice versa, improved upon at the Eurovision contest, can change a lot about how we thought about certain songs going into it. So I'm interested to see which songs here rise up to the occasion, because right now there's a lot of songs that I'm feeling kind of on. I would say that calling this a strong year at Eurovision might be a bit of a stretch. But I will agree that I think this is a slightly more open year. I feel like there isn't quite so clearly a winner, although we definitely have things like the betting odds, and we definitely have the fandom coalescing around a couple songs. Currently, Sweden is number one in the odds. And I believe last I checked, Austria and France round up the top 3. I would be happy with either of those wins, but I'm going to talk more about it as I get into the songs as I go through them here. Now, of course, the format for the shows is we've got the 5, or in this case, 6 automatic qualifiers, because the host country of the previous year obviously automatically qualifies to the final, in this case, Switzerland. Scattered throughout the semifinals. And so in semifinal 1, we have performing 5th, Spain, performing 10th, Italy, and performing 15th in the running order, Switzerland. I will not be talking about these entries in this video. After I make my semifinal 1 and semifinal 2 predictions videos, I will make a video about the Big 6 and what I think about those songs, because those songs aren't actually competing in the semis. So I'm not going to consider them for what I'm talking about in this video, which is which 10 songs go through and which don't. And of course, which ones would I put through if we were voting today and we hadn't seen anything based on what we already have. So we have the running order. I waited long enough to actually have that. Sometimes I film these videos before the running order is announced. And we open the show with Iceland, which is a choice. I think that it isn't boding well for that entry. I think that entry is already on thin ice, so to speak. And I think opening is an interesting choice. Usually you do want to open with something that is a little bit more, celebratory, and it's the first song you see, so you want something that's crowd pleasing. But I don't know if Iceland necessarily is the best choice for that. I think we have better options. What really stings for me is that Poland is in second place. Second place is considered the death slot. Uh, However, if there is any entry that I think, especially from Eastern Europe, that can survive that death slot positioning to still qualify, it is Poland. And there are other entries that I would be more worried about in that position. So I think Poland is still safe, but we'll get to it. I'm really a big fan of Poland, so I'm very excited about that one. And then we close out the show with Cyprus. Again, usually you also want to close big. I think Cyprus makes a little bit more sense to close out the show. However, I've seen multiple people agree that they think San Marino would have been a good closer. I think sometimes you do just want something that everyone can rally behind, maybe something that's not that deep, but that can still have a lasting impact. And Tutta l'Italia is perfectly fitting for that. And it reminds me a little bit of how, last year we ended, I believe it was semifinal one with Austria, which was just sort of a crowd pleasing club anthem. I think that's a good way to keep the party kind of atmosphere as you end the broadcast. So I don't know. San Marino's at current 11th split, is at 11th in the running order, not including if you don't include the the automatic qualifiers in there. I've seen some people say Norway would be a good closer. I've seen some people say Sweden. I mean, we'll talk about it. I think that overall, I don't hate this running order terribly, but I do think that there are, a couple traffic jams that could, running order is important. Running order is important. That's all I'm going to say. I will say I'm glad Estonia is earlier in the night. And we'll get to that when I talk about Estonia. I'm glad they didn't put Estonia at the end, or even closer to the end, because I think the songs towards the end always have a little bit of a benefit because they're more fresh in people's minds than sometimes songs placed at the beginning. So let's go through the 15 songs in order of basically first talking about the 10 songs that I need to qualify, and then going over the 5 songs that I don't. And I'll go through them in order of how much I need them. So we're going to start with, again, this is going off of my own taste, which, somewhat aligns with the general Eurovision fandom's taste, but obviously does not entirely. I got some hot takes, so buckle up. So let's start with the one song in this roster that, not only do I feel like this can absolutely 100% qualify, but I think everyone else does too. And is probably my favorite song of the ones here. We have Poland. Justyna Steczkowska is returning after 30 years to the contest. I cannot believe she looks incredible to be 50 and to be looking so energetic on stage, and she just looks incredible. She definitely is giving the Yennefer of Vengerberg look and aesthetic for those who are Witcher fans. Witcher is a Polish franchise, and this song is giving, especially in the styling, Polish Witcher energy. She really is serving Yennefer. I kind of can't get out of my head, after having seen The Substance, the comparison between Demi Moore, and considering she is an older performer, I see a little bit of a visual similarity to Demi Moore's character in The Substance, which, adds a little bit of a different context to the performance. I have Poland ranked second in my video that I posted last month. Gaia. This is the definition of bombastic Europop with an ethnic flair. When I think of Eurovision, I think of songs like this. It's almost if 1944 by Yamala had just a little bit more of drum and bass. This is, and was just a little more up tempo. This is what you'd get. This is a cathartic, expansive, howling, wild, feral track. It definitely gives a bit of that energy of Wild Dances by Ruslana in Ukraine. It's sung in Polish. I am God, force, my mother, love. When I cry, the world is drowning in tears. I hold the lost time in my arms. Gaia, time, I am your creator. The soul's destruction, yours. Flows in the bud's bloodstream, time, destiny. My name, Gaia. Gaia is considered to be Mother Earth. This is an incantation. This is a spell, a witch's spell, creating, a summoning of power from the earth to cast some sort of spell over the audience. And when you see the performance and the backup dancers, it's very primal. It feels so connected to that Eastern Slavic folklore that I just want more of on the Eurovision stage. But that can still be a club ready tune that can still get the gays dancing. I'm here for Justina, and honestly, I'm not too worried about her qualifying, but she is my 100% qualifier in terms of my personal, like, if I had to rank these songs, who's my favorite. It's her by a long shot. However, I wouldn't necessarily say she is the 100% locked qualifier. The next entry that I'm going to talk about definitely is. We've got Sweden with Barabarabastu by Kai. Now, this is a Finnish group who is singing in Swedish, but representing Sweden from Finland. And they are currently in the top of the betting odds, as I just said, which, Sweden just won 2 years ago. We just had the contest there. We going back? I guess we do Stockholm instead of Malmö. I don't know how I feel about that. I definitely would like to see a diversity in hosting locations. Wait a little longer, Sweden. Last year, I absolutely hated their entry. I had, Martinez and Marcus or whatever, their entry was at the bottom of my list. But this year, I get it. I do see the hype. I think it's maybe a tad overrated, maybe a little overblown, maybe not my personal winner. But if we're looking at semifinal one, I mean, this is the most surefire qualifier. This might as well be an AQ. I mean, come on, we know Sweden's making it through, regardless of what they send, unfortunately. They've had such a good qualification streak for the last decade, even longer. I mean, it's just hard to imagine that they wouldn't. I do love Sweden sending a song in Swedish. They have not done this in a very long time. Interestingly, the last time Swedish was sung on the Eurovision stage was in 2012 with a Finnish entrant. But I do not believe Sweden has entered a song in Swedish in longer than that. I believe since at least the 90s. So that is pretty exciting. And this song is an homage to Finnish sauna culture. And their song is in a language or a dialect of Swedish that is distinct to Finland called vora. And there are some Finnish words mixed in. And it's the first Swedish entry to represent the country since 1998. So wow, that's a long time coming. One of the really cool things about Eurovision this year is I think we have some of the most countries singing in their native language, or at least a language that's not English, possibly in the 21st century. That's really exciting. One of the coolest things to think about this year at Eurovision. Now this one, it's a populist song. It's very catchy. It's something that everyone can dance along and sing along to. It's camp. It's corny. It's something that kind of isn't taking itself very seriously. I am a little worried that this year is the year of trolling at Eurovision. I was very worried as the national finals were coming along. We were getting more and more songs. I was starting to see a lot of entries that felt like jokes, and it was making me think, oh boy, are we having a 2008 all over again? But I don't know. I think that this song is tongue-in-cheek and silly, and it's in the spirit of Karvia's entry 2 years ago. But I also think that this song has enough merit on its own to, in all of its composition, in its performance, in the staging, in the sincerity of the celebration of Finnish culture. I mean, this isn't a song that's trying to poke fun at Eurovision, at a way that I feel is like too negative. This is just a way of having fun at, celebrating a type of culture that I think a lot of us associate with Finland and Sweden, but it's still somewhat a unique perspective to be presented from a country that usually gives us very polished English language pop music. that's trying to sound like it was, created in California. So I do think that this song is the most Nordic sounding Swedish song we've ever gotten from the country in so long. It sounds very much reminiscent of its location, and I've never heard of this genre called epidunk. That is, this specific kind of new genre that arose in Sweden, where it's an electronic genre that's made popular by people driving tractors with really good sound systems. And so again, it gives me a populist kind of rural party music, kind of as a way of describing that, with a Nordic flair. It's usually kind of naughty in its lyricism. We're going to have a sauna, steam up and release all the stress today. We're the ones who glow. Sauna brothers, 100 degrees. Just having a sauna, throw on so that the sweat just swirls around. It's how can we make this sensual, but also family friendly at the same time? I mean, I am not a big fan of saunas. I think they make me feel very suffocated. I feel like I can't breathe in them. Maybe it's partly psychological because I'm just aware of how thick the air is with the humidity. But they do have supposedly very healing and calming and relaxing qualities. And so it kind of does make me want to like give another shot at sauna taking, but it's something that I don't know is quite for me. I love a good hot tub. Love a hot tub. I can handle pretty hot water in a hot tub. But a sauna, I'm not so sure about that. So yes, this is a fan favorite. I do think the televote is going to go gangbusters with the televote. Not so sure about the juries because, sonically and vocally, the song isn't that challenging. I do think that there are other, heavier hitters. But certainly in semifinal one, this one is probably going to be by and far the top. Obviously we don't have juries in the semis anymore. It is all televote. So, that goes to show that I think that Sweden is like de facto number one. It is the 100% qualifier. But I think Poland is the stronger song. But those two, I mean, come on, looking at this group, those two have to go in. They just do. But once we move away from those two entries, it starts to become a little harder for me. Because with the remaining songs, there's a lot I'm not feeling too strongly about. If we are going by my next favorite, I would have to say the Netherlands takes the cake. C'est la vie by Claude is an extremely polished, vocals up front, chanson. And it definitely has a great mix of message and charisma. I think that Claude is going to have a magnetism on stage, boyish good looks with earnest storytelling, taking us on this little journey that's emotional, uplifting, lyrically a little slight. I wouldn't say that the lyrics are very challenging or very insightful, but this is Eurovision. I'm not exactly looking for a song to blow me away with breakout poetry here. I'm rooting for Claude. And I think that Claude obviously will do well with the juries. But in a televote only semi, I still think there'll be enough people that will feel the pull of it. I'm not too worried about it. I need dynamic staging though. I do think, the visuals of the music video has them in these different environments, these different outfits. If there's some way that we can have him as if he's looking like he's moving through time, and experiencing the miracles of life, everyday life coming and going around him, because there's a central kind of focus on him, and I see the bustling world around him as he's singing. It's kind of reflective in this moment. I hope that the staging can be more than just him and a microphone. So my fourth spot is going to go to Albania. This is a little bit of a jump from my initial ranking. One of my hottest takes is that Zerm by Shkodra Electronic, not entirely sure how to pronounce the artist's name, is a little bit medium for me. And I know that Albania is a real dark horse that people are rallying behind, particularly in the fandom. I think that Albania has been bringing a lot of heat to the competition most years and has oftentimes been slighted in qualifications. I think that they are definitely looking pretty set to qualify here. They're lucky they're in this semi. However, I will say that I'm not quite as blown away by the song as others. It's a folktronica track, ethnic flares. I mean, Albania always is going to give us that. In this minute, in this moment, I was not paranoid. After the iridescent rain, the world appears. No ambulance on the way. No one speaks to you arrogantly. Even today, they tell us that time does not waste. I ended up underwater. I never said anything. Imagine a minute without soldiers, without orphans. No bottle in the ocean. Oil smells of lilac. School teaches freedom of speech. In my heart, in the heart, this minute will continue. The good people, the nameless people, they dance in the soul. I will never forget where I was born. Come to me, my world. Keep on shining. Scream. I feel the emotion. I know that there is so much pain that is behind the heart and soul of where this song is coming from. It is deeply embedded in the land and the culture it is proud of. I love seeing ethnic European, especially from smaller countries like Albania, represented so wonderfully and very competently vocally. I think that Shodkra Electronic, the female vocalist, she's definitely in the performances that I've seen rising to that occasion. My only thing is that the melody is not hitting, and in a way that's that memorable for me. I'm really into it in the acoustic guitar verses, but when it explodes into the electronic stuff, I'm not as grabbed as I would like to be. Not like in the way Gaia grabs you. I just think it's medium. It's not a song that leaps off the page in the same way. And to be honest, I'm a little surprised I'm seeing everyone coalesce around it. There are a couple other similar sounding songs this year that I don't see the same level of love for. And yet this one is just absolutely taking everyone by the throat. And I mean, I'm rooting for it. Like, I don't want to come across as like a hater or like bitter or jaded against it. I just personally don't see it. I think that Albania has sent stronger like battle cry ethnic folktronica songs. Kiethu Tokus, for example, from 2019 comes to mind. That song was more memorable for me. This one, it's just a little flat. I need a little bit more of a sustained, like howling vocal. I need a little bit more of, I don't know, if we're going in the electronic route, we need a little bit more of a drop. I just feel like this just is missing some elements that could elevate it. And I'm not entirely sure if the staging is going to be much different than what we saw at Festival I Kengis. I don't know, which is the costuming will probably be gorgeous and regional, but I'm not entirely sure that this is screaming it has to not only qualify, but it has to be on the left side of the scoreboard. But I think it will. I think it will, and I think it will, do pretty well. I think it could definitely get into the top 15. However, I don't see this winning. People who are really championing Tirana for Albania, I would love to see Albania win. No one would want to see it more than me. I'm so sick of seeing the same countries win, particularly Western European countries. I want to see the Balkans have it again. It's been so long since Serbia won. I'd love to see an Eastern European country, a country that's never won before. But I just don't see it with this one. But I don't know. I'm not always on the train with some of these entries. Sometimes I just can't get on board. But I see you all there having that party, and I'm happy for you. I fully support the song. I support the message. It's just not for me hitting quite the same. But I do think it is one of the stronger elements, stronger songs in this semi. So I think my fifth spot is probably going to go to Ukraine. Bird of Prey by Zifferblatt is definitely a middle of the road alternative rock song. I love the, bird-like opening vocals. And I kind of like the contrast of the crashing guitars after that. We've got this tranquility and then this bombast. It's grown on me, but it's maybe a little more reminiscent of a style of alternative rock that doesn't always speak to my ears the same way. But I'm definitely tuning in for it. It's one of the songs I'm more looking forward to. Calling a bird in the distance, as both literal and figurative. Come to me. This song soars with heavy wings. I am looking for light. I will move the mountains. Begging you, please just live. Share my heart with someone who cares. A lot of emotion. I love a soft boy alternative. I think I'm really glad this song is in semi one and Lithuania is in semi two, so that they're not competing against each other. I don't want them eating into each other's milkshake, so to speak. I think there's room for sad boy rock in both semis to go into the final. Ukraine is safe, I think. All right, we've got our first five. Now, the remaining five, I gotta be honest, it's a little bit harder for me to predict, particularly. But again, who would I put through? I think that, to be honest with you, my next spot would go to Croatia. I put Croatia really high in my initial ranking. And I know that I'm seeing a lot of people, I don't know, maybe turn against the song or feel like perhaps maybe because his vocals weren't as strong during the Dora performance because he was sick, I believe, that this one is going to flop big time and probably not even qualify. Look, I love an LGBT, I love a queer, overly theatrical performance at Eurovision. And this one is so tongue in cheek. It's so silly. He looks great. The choreography will probably be very interesting. It's a little all over the place sonically, I will admit. It just hits you a little too hard. And I don't know if it's going to be receptive to audiences because it's almost heavy metal. But then it's trying to be light, kind of airy pop at the same time. Yeah, it's a bit of a bizarre one. I appreciate the risk of it. And so I think it'll be sensual. And I think that, Marco will, I think Marco will serve, but I'm just not 100% sure how it's going to come across. But in this semi, I have it sixth because I'm still like looking forward to seeing it more than some of the other entries I'm going to be talking about. In my seventh spot, I am going to probably go with controversial Portugal. Deslocado by Napa is definitely a song that kind of could easily be considered elevator. I've seen multiple rankers on YouTube place it at the very bottom of the 37, which I think is very harsh and poorly indicative of their taste, I will say. But I can also see how this song isn't winning any televotes. I can also see how this song isn't really galvanizing too many people to pick up the phone and vote. So maybe it does do pretty poorly in the final if it does qualify. However, I'll say this. I think Portugal is very lucky to be in semifinal one because looking at these entries, I think there's definitely a path for it. But, we'll see. But I have to give it the edge over the next song I'm about to talk about just because it's more meaningful. No matter how it may seem, I'll never belong in that city, the sea of people, a different sun, the pile of concrete. It doesn't move me. It doesn't feel like home. So this is, about someone who's feeling homesick, journeying back to their place of inner peace, which they also reference being Madeira. So it's literal too. It's just, easy listening soft rock. But it doesn't leap off the page. And I could see some people considering it a bathroom break. So San Marino, I'm having at number 8. Now, here's the thing. I do think that San Marino is an entertaining song, and I do want it to qualify. And I actually think San Marino is more likely to qualify than Croatia or Portugal. But if I'm ranking these songs based on my own personal preference, I have San Marino a little under it. I really like the synth hook but I'm not that crazy about everything else. It's a guy at a DJ booth, not really having much of a vocal. Like, I don't know. It's great synth work. It's a great dance tune, great Euro dance tune, but it's not giving me too much other than that. And so at the end of the day, I think it'll be a great party, and I do think it deserves to go through. But I think that I have to give the edge to other songs. But I have it 8 out of these 10 that are qualifying. And then my final 2 spots, again, controversial. This is probably very controversial. I am going to say that Azerbaijan with Run With You by Mama Gama. Azerbaijan's impressing me this year. I think, it's definitely giving a little Foster the People, up-tempo, bombastic pop that is catchy. It's all about the hook. I could see it working. I really hope that the staging kind of tells the story that they're telling in the music video, somehow the kind of Frankenstein thing they're doing, or some other creative way to make it engaging on stage, because I think that this song needs that. But it is run of the mill, but certainly deserving of qualifying. And then, again, most controversial, sneaking in there, I have Slovenia. I'd like to see Slovenia make it. I don't think it's going to, and that's partly why I have it at the lowest of here, but we'll talk about that when I get to my predictions. Clemen, how much time do we have left? Look, if you know the story, this song is inspired by his wife, who was basically given this terminal diagnosis for an illness that she had, I believe some form of cancer, and she beat the odds. She was given like a year to live, and is now 5 years later or something. I mean, it's a triumph in a miracle in the face of utter despair and gloom kind of situation, which birthed a song that is so poignant and emotionally resonant that I'm a little sad to see so many people discount and discredit as just being a male ballad that has no flavor, has no business being in the final, is not at all competent or at all listenable. And I just don't think that's true. I think it's a gorgeous song, beautifully sung. Maybe the vocals, could be shaky at times. I hope he works on it. I hope he can deliver it, because if he can, I think that maybe it sneaks through. But I will say there are other entries in this semi that I just unfortunately see taking its place. Because at the end of the day, memorability, memeability, camp, these are things that Eurovision wants to reward, especially if it's a televote only semi. And so, unfortunately, I see Slovenia not making the cut. It's probably the most surefire non-qualifier out of the 10 songs that I just talked about. So, what are the 5 songs? Well, we all know now what the 5 songs I would not qualify are, but which of those 5 am I the most okay with qualifying? I think looking at this list, I would say probably Norway. I think that Norway's Lighter is, perfectly safe Gen Z TikTok pop. I mean, in a Benson Boone era, I could see Lighter doing things for the populace. It doesn't do much for me. I think it's very generic. I have it pretty low in my overall ranking. Kyle Alessandro is good looking. I do think the styling is a little bizarre, making him look like this sort of like dragon fighting warrior on stage is a bit, I don't know. He needs to look a little chicer, a little sleeker. I think we need to get that sex appeal amped up a little bit. And then maybe, with the staging, I don't know, the fire aspect is important because the song is about lighting your fire, but I don't know, it's a little over the top. But yeah, I need a little bit more entrancing kind of sex appeal coming off of him on the stage. But yeah, it's Believe era Justin Bieber pop, I think is a good way of describing it. Very, early Justin Bieber, but throwaway at the end of the day. The next song I would be okay with qualifying is probably Cyprus. In some ways, maybe Cyprus I might actually say is almost a little stronger than Norway. They're both doing similar things. And, maybe they might cannibalize each other. I think there's a good chance that, I don't know. Oh God, are they both going to make it through? Boy, this semi could actually really disappoint me. I'm going to be completely honest with you. But you know what? If they took out like Azerbaijan, I think I'd be okay. I'd be okay with Norway or Cyprus taking Azerbaijan's place, possibly even Portugal's place. Please, Slovenia, if we could find a way in there. But there's a couple other entries I haven't talked about yet. Unfortunately, you might notice that all the entries I am slighting are the bro entries. Look, I don't always hate men at Eurovision, but this year, the men are just, I don't know. I don't know, y'all. All right, next. Okay, well, this is where I have to be a little bit more balanced. As much as I don't like this song, I would say that my next tolerable qualifier will go to Estonia. Tommy Cash's song Espresso Macchiato is pure trolling. It's pure, I don't feel hate energy from Germany in 2021, that kind of thing. It's gonna qualify. I just don't see. I mean, the earlier running order makes me hopeful. Fourth is not the best place for it, but could have been second. Would have been nice if they'd given us. I really am I feel like this year the Baltics understood the assignment at Eurovision, and once again, Estonia is like that drunk clown in the corner who just fumbled the bag once again. Okay? Because when we look at what Latvia and Lithuania, and even Poland, I know Poland's not a Baltic, but it almost feels like it's in that legacy. If we look at what those countries are doing, and then of course, even if we look at what Finland is doing, obviously Finland is a little different because Finland is very sexual and it's very provocative, but it's still quality. I just feel like Estonia really dropped the ball here. Now, I will say, is it a catchy song? Is it well produced? Is it like in like a very sort of Swedish style of pop hit making kind of music theory, well produced and made? Yeah, but what is Tommy Cash going to give us with choreo? What is he going to give us with styling that's going to be that memorable? The Estilal performance was just laughably bad. I mean, the choreo was so, I mean, there's only one that was worse. We're going to talk about that song in a minute, but like it was just giving like very little thought put into it, very little thought put into the staging. I know SD Law doesn't always do much with the staging, but I don't know. I mean, we're going to be getting like, a lot of projections of, I think it's going to remind us a lot of Mae Muller and what she did in 2 years ago, where it's like a lot of it's just these projections of like imagery that relates to the song lyrics. And so we're just going to get like dancing Italian lattes, it's just going to be very, very silly and unserious. And I don't know. I can't tell if he's making fun of Eurovision. I can't tell what his real intentions are with this song. But all I'll say is that he is not a Joost Klein. I think Joost Klein was a lot more intelligent with his parody because there was an actual story there and there was an actual meaning. I know, I don't know, not every Eurovision song has to have deep meaning, but I just, at the end of the day, if I have to compare it, it's obviously trying to be Joost Klein from last year, but it's giving Timo Joost Klein. Okay, I'm just keeping it real. So unfortunately, I do see Estonia qualifying, but I don't want it in my final. And I see it doing really well the televote as well. Okay, then finishing out the bottom two, I'm going to put Belgium. Again, I am so controversial. I don't know what people like about this song. Strobe Lights is obnoxious to me. I don't feel any sort of I mean, maybe in the studio cut it's just a little cleaner, but maybe it's his vocal and the performance and the live performance that just is giving very karaoke. It's not very supported. It doesn't feel it's not a strong vocal. And I mean, it's a song that's all about the beat and about the kind of pulse of electronic music that I think relies too much on it, that becomes, too much of a gimmick and it becomes a flat song for that. There's not enough to distinguish it from the dime a dozen other, kind of Eurodance songs that have tread in those waters before it. It's just the definition of generic, the definition of generic Eurodance. And we can do so much better. Okay, we can do so much better. I bet it'll be styled well, but this ain't it for me. I'm not sure what you all like about this. I don't know why some people are like certain it's going to qualify. I mean, granted, what it may do is one thing, but why people even want it to qualify, I don't exactly understand. But the worst of the worst here has to go to Iceland. Okay, um, I'm sorry, but this song is just an assault on the eardrums. Maybe I'm getting too old. Maybe the anti-men propaganda has gone to me too much, but I'm just not feeling this TikTok bro electronic stuff. It's too abrasive for me. It has elements. I do love, of course, bringing in, the strings. It's got some ethnic backing. I think the chorus is probably the worst part of it. It means row in Icelandic. And of course, I do love that they're singing in Icelandic. Not too uncommon for the country, but doesn't always happen. Um, but, the performance that they gave at the Song Keppnin final was just absolutely, phoning it in, horrible choreography, not at all in a Eurovision ready kind of form. Rowing today, rowing tonight, rowing to where the stars are bright. Nothing's ever stopping me now. Whoa, whoa. I mean, it will get stuck in your head, but I don't know if it's welcome there. I cut up a tree and made me a boat, and when I get wet, will it still be afloat? For hours and hours I pull at the oars, I'm heading for heaven, I'll make it, of course. I'm strapped in this craft in my waterproof boots, through the sleet and the snow in my silver wetsuit. Like, lyrically, I mean, it's fine, we're making row, row, row your boat more culturally resonant to Icelandic shipbuilding, and of course the metaphor of that. Fine. Probably there'll be some rowing on stage, fake rowing. I don't know. They're. It's just, I don't know. I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it, and I might be a little too bitter. I don't know. And maybe it's the sunglasses. Just don't love the sunglasses. I don't know what it is about them. The look. It's just not doing it for me. If we could see their eyes, I would feel like I'm getting a connection with them. But they're giving it's like that one artist a couple years ago. From Norway who covered up their eyes, and it felt like I was losing the connection I needed to have with the performer. I don't love that when they do that. So yeah, I have that not qualifying, but I mean, that's if I were running things, if I was the only televoter. this is where things would stand. However, I am aware that things are going to go down differently. At this point, my prediction is the surefire qualifiers are going to be at the top, Sweden. Then I would put Estonia, unfortunately, as being the next kind of guaranteed qualifier. Poland, Albania. I'm basically going through what songs I think will do the best with the televote. Probably Norway, San Marino, Ukraine, the Netherlands, probably Cyprus, and rounding that out, Azerbaijan, which means I have the non-qualifiers as Croatia, just making it out, Portugal, Belgium. I don't have Iceland qualifying, I will say that. And then at the very bottom, I have Slovenia. I think Slovenia is the most likely to come last place in the semi. I really hope I'm wrong about that. I've heard people say don't underestimate the wine moms at Eurovision. And I think that if anyone's going to save Clemen's entry, it's the wine moms. And I think that, a more serious male ballad, Claude and Clement are the ones bringing the seriousness from the men. Otherwise, it's men acting a fool. Well, not entirely acting a fool, but being silly pop stars. So I think we need that sort of balance because the women are bringing some really cool ethnic stuff. I'm really excited for, like I said, really excited for Poland. I think Albania will be a hit. Again, the song isn't quite as captivating as Poland's for me. Um, but yeah, I don't think Iceland, based on its performance so far, is going to translate. I think also it going first is going to hurt it. So I think Iceland might be the one sort of bro entry that doesn't make it through. But I do see Cyprus and Belgium. Oh, and then Belgium. Yeah, I still think Belgium's not going to have enough. I still think it's not going to have enough, but we'll see. I could be wrong about that. And I could be wrong about Croatia. I might be underestimating it now that I've seen just some people kind of really turn against that song. Um, so it's really hard to predict, and especially in terms of the order. I wouldn't necessarily go by the order I've put them in so much. It's more just the grouping of who's in and who's out. But I'll be really interested to see. And of course, I still need to talk about semifinal 2, which will be my next video, hopefully coming out in about a week or so. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what songs are your favorites from Semi 1. What do you need to qualify? What can we leave in the semis? You all have a wonderful, blessed day. Please like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new here for more Eurovision content. See you all in my next video. Peace, love, and light. Bye.